Made with spoken. Children of Eternity, Chapter 2, The Way the World Ends. By Macaulay Christian. Digital narration, performed by multiple digital voices.
Here's what we know about the signal. 1, it was extragalactic. Okay, that means it came from outside our galaxy, which leads into number 2. Whatever, whoever produced it is insanely powerful. Now, no one has been able to detect anything, not so much as a single wow, roaming from that region of space in almost 30 years. But we know the signal originated 150 to 200,000 light years away, roughly, somewhere in the halo, a sphere of dust and stars surrounding a galaxy. To be able to produce such a signal, to be able to send it from so far away and have it reach every single planet and the entire galaxy at once is incredible. Impossible. The people who created it have so much power they can do the impossible. And that brings me to my third point. Whoever created the signal could be extremely dangerous. The Young Turks. 084. 5 hours. December 5th, 2197. Outside the Albion system. Echelon Fleet. CSG-11. URNS Banterra.
We arrived at our destination little more than 10 hours ago, joining a number of Republican vessels out here in the black emptiness waiting for what we don't yet know. There is a lingering uneasiness in the halls. So many of the faces on board are new. We lost a lot of good people, the best. Of course, none know what happened. The old hands know their duty, but there are rumors. 15 months later and still we can't shake it. The anxiety is contagious. I feel it myself from time to time. It's stubborn, like the blood stains on the floors. It hasn't quite faded away. I hope to make them proud. The lost. I know it means something that we're still here, that we're still out here. If I learned anything from Armstrong, it was that go and don't stop. As for my crew, I believe we're all beginning to acclimate to one another. The ship finally seems to be settling into rhythm. Having spent much of the latter portion of the year in shakedown, the crew and I are certainly anxious to resume our duties here, at Sarum.
Closing the leather-bound volume, Captain Agathon tucked away his logbook inside the desk. Another lesson, one of many, he had learned from Armstrong over the years. Take the time to write your own log by hand. It might bother the folks back at the Arks all to hell, but there was a soothing quality to holding a pen between your fingers, to feel the touch of real paper, the smell of the ink, thick and wet. Starship captains needed their moments of tranquility. It was important to not overburden the mind. Writing, Armstrong had told him, was a potent relaxer. Captain Agathon hadn't been Captain Agathon for very long. Given the circumstances of his promotion to the chair, he sometimes noticed himself staring at the medallions denoting his rank. They sort of stuck out, hauntingly. When he looked at them in the mirror, his mind took him to the bedside of his friend and mentor, the man who had commanded the Banterra for the better part of 20 years, Jonathan Armstrong. He had been too weak to do the honors himself. His injuries had been extensive, after all. He had insisted all the same to be there, to witness it. Agathon could see his reflection now. Staring out the window of his sea cabin, he examined the face he saw, freckled with hundreds of white specks, twinkling far-off stars. He looked older than he was. At least, he thought so anyway. The wrinkles on his forehead were more pronounced than one should like. On the left side of his face was a pair of thin, shallow scars. There was still a hint of youth behind all the years of painfully acquired wisdom radiating from his eyes. Agathon's eyes had all the color and depth of the ocean. The whole Iliadic Sea seemed to be contained within. His face bore no signs of having known an overabundance of laughter, discipline, authority, intelligence, fealty. These qualities excreted from his pores. Regret, longing, melancholy. They were there too, lingering like Pliny shadows. Agathon glanced down at his watch. A lengthy pause had settled quietly between the last report on the telegraph device and now. He pressed the button to the intercom, then changed his mind. Exiting onto the bridge, Agathon was struck, again, by how different it was now. It amazed him still how something as benign as lighting could drastically alter one's atmosphere. The bridge had taken on a pale green glow, and the drab beige paint on the bulkheads and girders only made it more pronounced. Vidya, the shipboard AI, announced his presence on the bridge, and he took a seat overlooking it.
Captain Agathon,
She said, her voice calm but intrigued. She emerged from the ether, A slender woman strode into the rather mundane cabin, tying her velvet hair behind her before adjusting her blouse. She looked more like a civilian than a soldier. It had been due to her that the Banterra had been laid up in dry dock for so long, extending an already arduous overhaul process to bring the old ship into line with current regulations. The black strips enabling her to project herself ran along almost every wall on the ship. Her eyes and ears were everywhere. Yet another thing he had to accustom himself to. She had the courtesy to salute him, at least. He wondered sometimes why the Navy bothered manning ships anymore. Vidya was more than capable of operating the Banterra on her own, without pesky humans like himself interfering. But all the same, the Navy kept them around. Agathon's tone was flat.
Report?
Pulling it up now, Captain.
Vidya blinked and projected the live feed on the observation window. The telemetry from Sarum's control center froze mid-frame. No chatter, no ambient noise, just a dead, heavy quiet. Then the spark gap fired. A muted crack rolled through the speakers. The coils on the live feed flared white, and an expanding halo of energy washed across the camera. Static swallowed half the screens. Vidya's projection flickered, recalibrated, and frowned. A second pulse hit. Consoles on Sarum shook, people staggered. Lights blew out in staccato bursts. By the third pulse, conduits were erupting overhead, sparks raining through the grainy image like orange hail.
Power surge detected.
Vidya warned.
Multiple systems failing.
On the feed, Admiral Shore's silhouette braced himself. As a construction manager, Beck Lauer, according to facial recognition, dragged a fire extinguisher across the frame, drowning a console in foam. Someone shouted for a shutdown. Someone else yelled that the system wasn't responding. Radio's dead, network dead, panic blooming in real time. Agathon felt his jaw tighten. This was supposed to be commissioning. Scripted. Procedural. What the hell is happening down there? He wondered. A low, rising whistle bled through the audio. The picture jolted as the entire facility lurched. Smoke, thick, black, boiled upward beyond the threshold. Flames licked at the remains of a Drazenbor patrol craft. Another pulse rolled through, knocking people sideways. Agathon leaned forward as the camera auto-corrected, pulling focus just in time to show the sky. Aircraft, dozens, spiraling down like stones. On the ground, Lauer turned toward shore, raising a hand, and a white beam dropped out of the frame. It swept over Lauer head to toe, the audio filled with a high electric scream, as though the air itself were tearing apart. A violet ribbon arced down from the toroid above and struck. Lauer disintegrated. Not thrown, not burned, edges dissolving into drifting ash, his outline collapsing into smoke that vanished as quickly as it formed. Shore went rigid. The feed shook wildly as lightning began lashing the yard, never touching ground, always finding a moving target. Bodies flashed white, dawn in an instant. People scrambled under vehicles, tripping, crawling, disappearing into bursts of purple light. "Admiral!" Someone on the ground shouted, dragging him toward shelter just as the image cut to static. Half a moment later, the pulses started again, distant, rhythmic, seismic. On the bridge, no one spoke. Agathon exhaled only when he realized he hadn't been breathing.
Vidya, hail the Solitude. Request instructions.
His tone was tight, controlled. Holding a finger to her ear, she announced. She, then slow.
Commodore Ekwueme is addressing the fleet.
Turning away from the wavy-haired man glaring at him through the glass, Agathon told her to patch him through.
We have lost contact with Admiral Shore. Our hails to the Drazenbor vessels in orbit have gone unanswered. No one is responding from Sarum. A sizable buildup of energy has been detected on the surface at the site of the device. Pursuant to General Order 9, as of 0947 hours, I am assuming command of the fleet. All ships, condition yellow. Stand by and prepare to jump on my command.
Vidya looked to Agathon for confirmation.
You heard the man. Spin up the warp engines. Take the ship to yellow alert. Have medical team standing by, Major Pierce.
Agathon leaned over the chair's control panel.
Pierce here, Captain.
Is your team assembled?
Yes, sir. We're prepped and ready for deployment.
Agathon surveyed the bridge.
On the Commodore's command.
The corners of Vidya's mouth curled into a smirk.
I love this part.
The ships around them disappeared. Nothing but a gleaming trail of stardust left in their wake. Off to port, a bright flash hurled the colossal carrier's Solitude out of sight. The Banterra began to purr, vibrations traveling up through the deck plating and into Agathon's bones. The thrumming grew more and more intense as the engines spun faster and faster, a warp bubble sequestering this little piece of space away for their private use.
Jumping to Sarum in 5.
The humming dissipated, exceeding the ear's ability to perceive as the ship shuddered. The crew were pressed back into their seats. The twinkling orbs of light started moving. Closer and faster, Agathon could almost stretch out and touch them. Soon they were streams. Blue, bright blue streams. Shuddering again, and then they were inside a sphere, a wave of blue bending around them. Fiery red light left in their wake. Then it was over. A quick jolt in the tidal waves of blue aura receded, leaving a planet remarkably similar to Earth in full view, a lone island in a sea of black.
Vidya.
Agathon had barely uttered a sound when the Banterra rapidly descended, diving as a Drazensbor warship spun over its axis, powerless and adrift. It wasn't the only one either. A dozen frigates and destroyers, all bearing the mark of the Empire, floated aimlessly, absent control. Their crews trapped within. Panicked? Surely. Wounded? Very possibly. In danger? Most definitely. Agathon straightened up in his chair.
Dispatch medical teams immediately.
The green glow of the lamps turned to red. An alarm blared throughout every corridor of the ship, rousing every able-bodied crew member to their stations. Marines deployed, assuming defensive positions at every vital system. The torpedo tubes were loaded, and laser banks charged. Kinetic shields were triggered automatically, creating a pocket of safety around the Banterra. A turbulent wind of radiation crashed into the ship, rocking it back and forth. The shields glistened like sunlight off the ocean. It lasted only a few seconds.
What was that?
Agathon asked, rising. He tugged on the hem of jacket, peering out through the forward observation window. The carrier Solitude was deploying fighters, hundreds of them, at least an entire wing. Shooting out of their tubes, they swarmed the crippled Drazensbor fleet. Transports followed, latching on with cables. At least one warship was being reeled inside the carrier.
High-intensity energy pulse. Something is attempting to scan us.
Origin?
It came from the planet, Captain. From Sarum.
Agathon's eyes devolved into slits.
The device?
Vidya responded only with a disconcerting look.
Vidya, inform the Solitude we are approaching the planet and will provide assistance. Major Pierce?
Yes, Captain?
Said a voice, cracking over the intercom.
The light is green, Major. Find out what's happening down there and shut it down.
Touching her hand to her ear, Vidya's eyes fixed on a point by the tips of her shoes.
Captain Ekwueme approves. All remaining ships are proceeding to tow disabled Drazensbor.
Vessels to safety. Watching the 3 dropships accelerate towards the planet, flanked by a pair of fighters, Agathon noticed something peculiar.
Vidya, what is this distortion?
Raising a curious eyebrow, she approached him, moving in absolute silence, her feet making not a sound as she crossed the deck.
Scanning,
She said, magnifying the spot.
That's directly over the device. And the settlement. Oh my God.
Clutching the side of her head, Vidya doubled over, wincing. Agathon made to catch her, but his hands just fell right through her avatar.
Are you all right?
She nodded.
Memories? I'm not certain what it is, but...
Her eyes swelled, huge saucers, pupils big and black.
But it's loud.
Loud? What do you mean loud?
His husky voice made him sound angry. She retreated.
There were voices, lots of voices.
Voices? How? Whose?
I don't know.
She said more sternly than she meant.
But it isn't safe down there. Something is wrong. We have to shut it down. We have to shut it down now.
Agathon and Vidya watched as the nebulous cloud over Telegraph Village grew larger. It swirled, like a hurricane, with a device at its center. Though nothing more than a steady yellow icon traveling across a blue line, Agathon could imagine the scene unfolding in his mind. The thrusters of the Pegasus steering the dropship through the cloud cover, as droplets of water streaked over the windshield before boiling away in jets of steam, gliding along the fuselage. The nose would have been red and hot. Pockets of uneven air bouncing the dropship, jarring those within. To anyone on the ground looking up, the pitch would have appeared too steep. But the pilot was a professional and had trained for tactical insertions like this. The Icon advanced from the south, up through the valley. The evening sun would have been at their wings. The storm ahead drew closer, a hurricane stretching from one end of the horizon to the other. From his high altitude, Agathon could see just how abnormal these storm clouds were. The clouds were amorphous and moved like smoke. A whirl charted their path. Ghastly fingers appeared, with a violent flash of light. Ghostly faces in the clouds stared back at them with empty, hollowed sockets. Agathon wondered what it was Major Pierce and the pilot saw as they neared.
Banterra Actual, this is Pegasus 7. 7-6, please repeat. Over.
Go ahead, Pegasus 776,
answered Vidya, but a burst of static echoed over the comms.
Negative copy, Banterra. We are crossing into the storm now.
Agathon signaled for Vidya to try and raise the pilot again.
Try and clean it up,
he urged, the lightning strikes intensifying as the dropship flew over Telegraph Village.
Banterra, if you can hear us, trucks abandoned in the streets. No emergency lights. No one on the ground. Smoke on the outskirts. Possible casualties. Lots of lightning.
They heard the co-pilot next.
The hell is going on here? It's like it's trying to get inside.
Where's the thunder? Why isn't there any thunder?
Agathon spoke aloud, hoping volume might cut through the static.
Proceed with
Brace, brace, brace.
The pilot's voice silenced Agathon.
Vidya?
He asked, the icon now flashing red.
What's happening?
Vidya bit her nail, then shook her head.
I've lost them, sir.
Get them back.
Agathon barked, his eyes fixed on the spot where the telemetry ended. There wasn't time to process. Another energy pulse crashed into the Banterra.
Shields dropping down to 30%, Captain.
Vidya's hands were on her hips, her sneaker tapping 100 times a minute against the floor. Radio, sensors, personnel transponders, everything was jammed, blocked, and distorted. Biting her tongue as the latest energy wave passed them by, she shook her head. The Banterra's complement of Pegasus were of an older design, and not equipped with quantum entanglement communicators. The damn things belonged in a museum, not performing sorties. They had no place aboard her ship.
Captain Ekwueme has pulled the fleet back beyond the gas giants,
she said. Agathon walked around behind his chair, squeezing the headrest tightly, pinching the leather.
Major Pierce, the ground team?
She answered, head hanging.
Sir, the Commodore is requesting you on a private channel.
Grabbing the receiver to his right, Agathon pressed it to his ear.
Captain Agathon, this is Commodore Ekwueme. These energy waves are only growing stronger, and we may have already lost all those on the surface. Your AI has informed me that you have lost all contact with the away team. Is that accurate?
Agathon cleared his throat.
Yes, sir, it is.
He could hear the Commodore breathing through his nostrils on the other end of the line.
Then, Captain, I see no alternative. The device must be destroyed.
Sir, surely there must be another way. We have no idea what's happening on the ground. No idea if there are survivors or wounded.
The rolling of Ekwueme's eyes was audible.
That's exactly the problem. We have absolutely no idea what is happening, and no way of finding out. That thing presents a clear and present danger to the planet and this fleet.
Vidya can't guarantee a precise firing solution. Not when our sensors can't penetrate that cloud. We could hit the settlement.
The Commodore's tone changed.
Captain Agathon, I am ordering you to target your ship's weapons on that device and to destroy it. Immediately. Ekwueme, out.
The bridge fell eerily quiet. The walls, the deck, the people, everything just fell away, fell out of sight. The beeping of the computer stopped. The pestilent humming of the gravity plating stopped. It all just stopped. Agathon hung up the receiver. The handset clicked, pressing down on the hook. The cord coiled beneath. It took him a moment to let go. The plastic was slick in his grip, his palm moist.
Load forward tubes, bring us about.
You can't be serious.
Vidya's bright doe eyes would have shot lasers if they could.
There are 50,000 people down there.
She pointed at the planet behind her. Easing back into his chair, Agathon folded his right leg over his left.
We don't know that, and we have our orders. Prepare salvo fire on my command.
Her small frame heaved, a blotch of red spreading, crawling up her neck. Lips pursed, the muscles in her face taut, teeth clearly clenched and grinding. She trembled, her fists rigid against her thighs. If she had been human, her nails would have cut deep into her palms, spilling dark, oxygen-rich blood to spill out.
Captain!
With an exacerbated sigh, Agathon glared at Sarum, at the clouds spreading across the continent.
Prep a Pegasus for departure. I want medical teams and Marines on the ground. The
Second telegraph is offline.
With a flick of her wrist, it was done. Agathon stroked his chin, his brow furrowed. There was the word, sitting there right on the tip of his tongue. With half a breath, he could let it drift out, over his lips, and the whole thing would be done. He scratched his tongue against the back of his teeth. He had to force it out, spit it out. The word would not come easily. It was not an easy thing to do. Vidya stood, waiting, then closed her eyes.
Captain, the stasis chamber is coming online. Hermetic seal cracking,
said a dutiful Lieutenant Keel. Vidya activated her sympazoid, waking it from its slumber. Turning his gaze from Lieutenant Keel to Vidya, Agathon winced.
Vidya, what are you doing?
When she didn't respond, he pressed.
Vidya, fire forward batteries now, Vidya.
Her lips, full and often framing a sardonic smirk, were now ever so thin. Those big hazel eyes dripped with scornful sadness, disgust. Her voice shook.
I can't do that.
Agathon nodded. He knew. Somehow, he just knew what she was going to do. He wasn't about to stop her. Rapid eye movement caused her eyelids to twitch.
Synchronization complete.
She looked away.
Powering up Pegasus, decompressing the hangar, hangar doors open.
Turning her back to him, she stared out the forward observatory glass.
En route to Sarum.
The first officer, Commander Coden, shouted, ordering that they activate grappling cables.
Tow that dropship back into the hangar.
Belay that.
Agathon said, waving his hand dismissively. Lieutenant Keo held his earpiece close.
Commodore Ekwueme on the line, sir. He is demanding to speak with you.
I'm sure he is.
Agathon whispered to himself. He tugged the handset off the hook, then paused. He watched Vidya's dropship descend through the clouds, vanishing from sight and sensors. Her synthetic body was equipped with quantum-entangled transponders connected to her antenna on the ship.
Exiting the stratosphere. Now, correcting course, heading telegraph construction site.
The handset shook, pulsating in Agathon's hand. Ekwueme's voice boomed on the other end, unintelligible sounds blaring out. Vidya continued. You won my... I don't want to be a competition for this conflict. Davia continued.
Coming up to the valley. Turbulence increasing. Stormfront due north. A number of civilians appear to have abandoned their vehicles and are proceeding on foot away from the storm. I am directly over the settlement. No power. Transformers are down. The substation has suffered significant damage. I've located the Major's downed Pegasus. Position is on the main road outside the security fence. Condition unknown, dropping a waypoint on approach to the control center.
Seconds later, sensors picked up another ship, small, possibly a scout, exiting warp. Its signal was degrading quickly. Plunging after Vidya, the ship traced her trajectory perfectly. I disappeared entering the atmosphere and the upper layers of that technicolored cloud, but not before its identity was confirmed. A Spec Ops stealth ship. Signaling Lieutenant Keel to try and notify Vidya, Agathon lifted the receiver to his ear. Ekwueme barked questions, his tone agitated.
Yes, sir. A dropship did depart from our hangar. No, sir. The crew member did not have authorization. Sir, if I may, we just had another ship jump in, heading to the planet's surface. Did you authorize?
Ekwueme's voice boomed through the receiver like a cannon shot, but Agathon interjected.
Sir, did you dispatch paladins after a member of my crew?
Fire, Captain! I am ordering you to fire, now!
Ekwueme commanded, the handset radiating with Ekwueme's vexation. Covering the handset with his free hand, Agathon called out to Vidya. but there was no response. He didn't even have time to press her avatar further when a brilliant beam of intense white light, a burning, blinding light, erupted, shooting out into the depths of space. The epicenter burned hot, the nebulous clouds dissipating as the sight glowed red, orange, and yellow. It looked as though a volcano was spewing out the boiling internals of the planet. The speed of the beam was extraordinary. Endless streams of light were jettisoned into the black void, continuing farther than any eye, sensor, or telescope might see.
Oh my, Captain!
Staring at her hands, Vidya suddenly fell to her knees. Arching back, her jaw wrenched wide open, Agathon thought it was going to split. A sonic shrill pierced their ears, stabbing, twisting, and turning. The pitch rose higher and higher. Clapping his own hands to his ears, Agathon dropped the receiver as his brain swelled, pressing hard against his skull. Nausea. He could taste bile and mucus in his mouth. The bridge was spinning, fire and faster. He swayed back and forth, clutching the sides of his head. The pain. All he could do was choke on his voice. It hurt too much to scream. His face contorted into something out of an Edvard Munch painting. The screens on all the displays turned to static. Flashes of images and words. Nonsensical. The lights flickered as the ship began to list. Vidya collapsed. She lay sprawled out on the floor, tears trickling down her cheeks. Then, with the flip of a switch and a deafening thud, the Banterra lost all power. Agathon wasn't sure how long it lasted, but when it stopped, the beam's journey continued, traveling farther and deeper until at last it faded. A faint, trailing gleam was all that remained among a field of stars. Over the settlement, a spoon might as well have scooped away the clouds. There was a clear, uninhibited line of sight all the way to the surface, to the village, to the device where a singular beacon pulsated.
Professional audiobooks in a click. Spoken.